is Omar Stromer. I'm one of the founders of Africa Collect Textiles. So what we do, we collect used textiles, footwear, also offcuts, textile waste in Kenya and in Nigeria. So we have, on the one hand, collection points where the general public can drop off items that they don't use anymore. So we have now about a bit more than 30 collection points in Nairobi and 10 in Lagos. So we collect, people can conveniently donate or drop off the items that they don't use anymore. And then we take them. We also have a pickup service for when people have a huge amount, or for overstock or uniforms, things like that. So we pick these items, make sure that we can sort them out. The wearable items are prepared for rewear, so they flow back to the second-hand markets. Some items are donated to orphanages, only the ones that fit. And then we have an upcycling studio in Nairobi. So we do a lot of upcycling work. We have our own products. So we make rugs out of denim mostly, and toys out of kitenge and denim and other materials, pillows, and we also do tailor-made products. So we do a lot with uniforms. So we repurpose or upcycle uniforms into pencil cases, into backpacks, into shoppers, and we sell them back to the companies that are originally have been using those uniforms. And these are like security companies, conservation organizations like Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. It's like an elephant orphanage. They save elephants. So organizations that are using and discarding a lot of uniforms, and so we repurpose them so that they can sell them back to their community, or to their funders or backers or visitors. It's all 100% recycled products, locally sourced, locally upcycled, and that keeps us afloat. And in the future, we would like to mechanically process textile waste, maybe in the future even chemically processing the waste, depending on what is available at what time, at what cost. But the first step will be to start cutting and shredding the textiles that are difficult to upcycle or too small to do something with, or the materials are not interesting to do anything else than downcycling, basically. And that so we would like to start to make our own filling materials, and later on needle punch it into felt, press it into plates materials, insulation materials, these kind of things. During my first job, I was sort of like hired as a consultant to one of the bigger textile collectors in the Netherlands. So they collect. They have the bins in the streets, and they collect mostly in Amsterdam and Rotterdam. So we did research on textile recycling. Also in the Netherlands, we have a huge waste problem, maybe even bigger, the waste problem. But we were looking at the materials that we do not export to African countries or to Eastern Europe, because it's mostly very low value, and we were looking at how can we bump up the value of that textile waste. So I did some research on that with the university, and found it in general very interesting, but I also got to understand the darker the sides of it, the textile chain, the end of life, and all the materials that are going to African countries, and then where they basically end up in the river eventually, or being burned on the landfill, or emitting methane on landfills. So So there are different steps in between. So you have the collector, the sorter, and then the exporting and the importers, and then the resellers. And everybody that goes to or that understands, like that gets into this topic, is quite flabbergasted about that. And so also me, and so I, with my former boss or the director of the organization, who also felt bad about dumping all that the stuff in Africa eventually. So we looked at so how can we change that, and we felt like if we collect it here, we should also collect it there, and if we come up with all kinds of recycling opportunities here, we should also transfer it over there, or at least learn from each other. So I went to Nairobi. Back then there's a lot of Dutch materials ending up in Kenya. Things have changed, I think, a little bit by now, but it doesn't really matter. It's still European stuff goes to a lot of like East and West Africa, among other places. But so I got to go there and to live there. So I lived in East Africa for a while, first in Kenya, then in Uganda, like for about 5 years in total. And so I started to collect used textiles. So first in the same way as how we do it in the Netherlands with bins. So the first collection points we established in 2013 or something already. And it went quite well. So also there people grow out of the clothes, and people become bigger and smaller. Children grow. So there's just a lot of like clothes that is left over as unused. And of course there are a lot of systems, social systems, whereby people receive their clothes for free of their family members. Same as everywhere in the world, but maybe even more in Kenya. And but still there's a lot of waste. And also another huge waste stream is of course the unsellable items that are brought there. So it's now, some researchers say just 30 or 40% of what is shipped to Kenya, to other countries, is unsellable, and it can be that it secretly has a stain that is missed by the sorter in the Netherlands or anywhere else, or that it's ripped, or that it is sizes that do not make sense. Or materials that are too heavy or too thick. So there's a lot of things sort of like going wrong, and it's eventually the systems are not in place to properly deal with those waste streams. So they end up in the river, or like next to the river, or like on the landfill, where they are mixed up with other types of waste, which makes it even more complicated to recycle. So we try to save those materials before it's too late, so that's why I went there. Lately, what has been going very well is the upcycling facility. Or like we have been able to grow. We are now in total with 13 people in Nairobi. About eight or nine are really focused on upcycling materials into new products. And these new products, for example, our rugs are 100% recycled denim. But we're also making these pencil cases, for example, for clients. These are also, even the zipper is recycled from the jeans that we collect. And we have been able to land some assignments, and now we're basically fully booked for the rest of the year. And that has been quite a success. It's nice to know that at least we are able to sell upcycled, 100% recycled products, and that there is a demand for that. One of the biggest barriers is to get to normalize textile waste separation. because it's just not common for people to take the effort to separate it, and like if it's wearable or non-wearable, but to take textiles and footwear and curtains and bedding to the collection bins. And that is something that maybe also like in Western Europe, it's very common, like people grow up with those systems. But if it is new, then we need to make people aware. And it is, we require some sort of like behavior change. And that is extremely challenging. And we need to reach out to people all the time and do campaigning. And that is something that we, misjudged, or like how complicated that can become. And so that is a huge challenge, basically, to reach people and to normalize the separation of textiles from the ordinary waste. All the players in the textile chain, from the designers, so like the fashion brands and the producers, and then you have the users, and then they have the collectors and the governments that are also facilitating the collection, and the people that collect and people that sort and the people that push it forward. And so we, like Europe, or like the global north, is now very keen on having this extended producer responsibility laws coming in, and that is really focused on these countries themselves, and it doesn't apply anymore when we are shipping it to other nations. And I think we should completely rethink this sector, and also everybody should have their take some more responsibility in that sense, and not wait just for the law to change before people are actually going to do some action. And I think it is for a lot of organizations also not easy to understand their role. Like I know some fashion designers, for example, and they, if you hear what kind of pressure they are dealing with, or what they have to fulfill, or like what kind of design criteria they have to deal with, then that the item is recyclable is at the bottom of their priority list, and that is sad, and that should not be the case. I think there's so many things that people can do better in where they are, and they should take that responsibility and also look at, okay, what is my responsibility in the eventual mess that is created, because everybody has a role in that. And if people do not want to do something about it, then they need to pay other people to do that. So I would really advocate for a global extended producer responsibility system, whereby we can somehow look into if items, if garments are not made for recycling, which is most of them, then there should be some sort of waste tax added to the product that goes into the solving this end of life challenge. Because eventually these materials end up in the rivers or on the landfill, emitting the like gases and CO2, and releasing microplastics. And those gases and materials are going into our common waterways, in our common oceans, and our common air. And it's not just a problem for Africa alone. We need to solve this as an entire sector. And I really hope that in the near future people do not just pass on those responsibilities. Like, I didn't bring it to Africa, or like I have to compete with my other people or other brands, or I'm just a middleman, or like I'm just a sorter, or I just collect it. Actually, collecting is good so that it doesn't end up in the incinerator. So everybody can sort of like tell themselves that they are doing great, but the eventual, like the result is not great. And I think we can only solve this huge problem if everybody's taking their responsibility and everybody's just working together on this. So extended producer responsibility for as a global mindset, and and I think then only we can solve this waste problem. It is a challenging topic, how to make this very complex and like very international fashion chain a little bit more circular. But I do think that East Africa and also West Africa has a very big chance to also be a bit of a front runner, because there is cotton being grown. All the steps are available, from spinning and weaving and their fashion brands. So if we can manage it, or if we can show how a local circular fashion industry, what it should look like, I think those regions are very interesting to try that. What would be our dream is to be able to recognize materials that can be recycled, but also recognize materials that are originally locally grown and locally processed, to be able to show what a local circular fashion industry can look like. So that is something that I think Kenya has a huge potential in doing that, because it is a fashion, it is a textile nation,